Next is a story by Malathi Madam. By the way, I had expected all the participants to be here, to be present by about 4:20, so that they could pick the slots. But a few haven't come, and based on that assumption, I had said that the story and the poem will be alternating. But now we go by those who have picked the slots. So sometimes you may have 2-3 stories together or poems together. It will go by the allotted slots. So that's how now. Again, story is another story we have by Malathi Nagraj. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Hello. Greetings to all of you. And today I'm not going to tell a story, but I'm going to read a story. The story is titled as The Days of the Dacoits. Actually, it's based on a real incident, though a little not very common incident, and the narrative is mine. The creativity lies in the narrative. My story goes back by more than 6 decades. India was beginning to progress after independence. The temples of India, the river valley projects, the steel projects, etc. were coming up. But on the other hand, some areas were still primitive and infested with dacoits, where the jungle law prevailed.
Yeah.
This story happened in 1960. The place was a remote area in Madhya Pradesh. There was this little village called Shipur Kalam on the banks of a small river called Seep. Seep was a tributary to the ill-famed river Chambal, which in turn joined the river Narmada. The government was building a dam across Chambal called Gandhi Sagar Hydroelectric Project. This dam necessitated the canal system. The government had built a small colony for the staff working in the canal project. They were mostly young engineers and others, all with young families. My husband was posted to this project as an engineer, and we became the residents of this colony. The village of Shilpur was just a kilometer away from our compound. It was a single-lane village. Small shops selling bare essentials dotted the narrow street, with small dwellings behind them. The winding road went up to the historic fort on a hillock, where the government offices were functioning. We used to hear that the notorious Chambal Valley dacoits freely roamed around in the village to buy their food supplies. It was said, in turn, they helped the villagers in many ways. The villagers never gave out any information about them. The police at the chowki looked the other way too. So the police and the dacoits shopped at the same shops. It was said that the dacoits never harmed women and children. If they were real Robin Hood or just local tales circulated, we never knew. It was also believed, it was believed that they did not harm salaried government servants, as they were not worthy of their attention. But we were not sure about it. They targeted the rich businessmen and the contractors who often visited the government offices under heavy security. There seemed to be constant cat and mouse game going on between them. The big dacoit Mon Singh had been shot dead in 1955. He was glorified with a temple and a popular song on him. It was being recited often. It was like this: Rasta chalta koi nahi loota, na bahnon se haar, jo bhi mila so bant diya, bahnon ko pehna ye baat. Meaning that he never robbed a common man and woman, but distributed all that he got among them. But all doctors were not depicted as good. For example, Gabbar Singh, the Gujar, was greatly feared. He had become notorious for cutting off the noses of policemen who clashed with him. We were grateful that his domain was hundreds of kilometers from us. Though we were not policemen, his cruelty towards common men was also well known. His name was taken to depict the Amjad Khan role in Sholay. Amritlal the Brahmin Ratan Singh the Chamar, etc. were all alive around Shipur and much talked about. We, the ladies of the colony, did not have much to do, so we gathered often and let our imagination run. We speculated in a hush-hush voice about their family life. If we saw an unfamiliar face, we wondered, can this be a dacoit? Maybe he's an apprentice. We kept our fingers crossed, prayed to God whenever our husbands had to pass through the village to reach the offices at the fort. There were small weirs, aqueducts, siphons, bridges being built all along the canal, and each engineer had his jurisdiction and camped along the river or the canal. It was the duty of the engineer to pitch a tent and distribute the daily wages to the laborers at the end of the day. He was assisted by a clerk and a peon. Balaram was one such engineer. He was a colleague of my husband. One day he was distributing the wages from the cash box. Suddenly a group of rugged men with rifles descended on him. They manhandled him, blindfolded him, and dragged him with them, taking the cash box with them. The laborers gaped open-mouthed, and the clerk and the peon almost fainted. From now onwards, the narrative is based on what Balram narrated. They walked and walked. After some hours, the dacoits removed the blindfold. They made him carry the footwear and walk barefoot on the corner path. It was a moonlit night. Balram noticed the terrain was tough, dotted with ravines, mud hillocks, and scrub forests. Frequent sandstorms were blowing.
No. Power is off. Stop it. Lost one.
She will finish it. I've seen the number of pages. I've seen
Hello.
the number of pages.
They took him to their leader. They addressed the leader as Kaku Sahib. Kaku Sahib was a thin man and wiry man with a disproportionate moustache. He looked too mild to be a dacoit. Anyway, he was not everyone's idea of a dacoit. He was sitting on a katia, a coir cot, surrounded by a few men. There were no signs of women around. Some men were doing the cooking. The captors pushed Balram to fall at the feet of the leader and deposited the cash box in front of him. Kaku Sahib had one look at Balram and the cash box and he became furious. He spat at the captors and roared at them, "You morons, what have you done? Have you lost your wits, tormenting a government servant and laying hands on government money? You want the poor laborers to starve? You snatch the roti, you donkeys. Don't you remember the poor are our brothers?" When he cooled down, he apologized to Balram. "Maaf kijiye Sahib ji, galti ho gayi. It will not happen again." He seated him on a katia, gave him a big glass of goat's milk. His footwear was restored. He gave him 1 rupee coin and said, "My men will come with you till the fort. There at a distance you will see a lamp in a faraway hut. Follow the light and go to the hut. Give him the rupee to the man and give the rupee to the man at the hut. He will take you on a mule to your camp. You seem to be tired. And yes, the cash box will reach your camp too. Don't worry." He joined his palms in a namaste and sent him off. So Balram reached home safely. The whole colony sent a prayer to God. We made him repeat his story 12 times, 100 times. He became a hero. He also proved to us that our husbands would be safe. We all could sleep well from that night. I got a story to narrate to my children and grandchildren, though they have to take it all with a pinch of salt. If you ask me if I had seen a real dacoit, the answer is yes. When and where and how. But that is another real story, but not for today, don't worry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.